Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop, bringing you another show today. Um, Want to get into some of this stuff, man. I want to get into the projected starting lineup for Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Obviously, we're gonna have another show similar to this a little bit down the road. Once we have kind of all the opt outs and the guys who are planning on leaving, the guys who are planning on staying. But I want to take a swing at it now because I think that we're kind of learning some stuff, and then I'm just going to use kind of my own logic on what I expect for some of these guys. And then, I mean, other than that, that's going to be the main thing for the show today. I want to talk a little bit about the transfer portal. Ohio State hasn't really been super active in it, other than sending guys into the portal yet. But um, I mean, Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming are apparently visiting Nebraska, and honestly, I mean it's probably a good landing spot for both of them. I mean, that's just I don't know. When you look at that situation, Kyle McCord is probably not going to end up at like a playoff caliber team, just because of what he shows on film. But going to Nebraska, they could definitely end up being a team that maybe like upsets some teams that they're not supposed to. It would be interesting because Nebraska actually plays in Columbus in 2024. So if Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming went to Nebraska, then they would both get to play another game in the shoe, and I think it's like week 8 or something like that next year. But I mean, I don't know, man. Like, could you imagine the backlash if Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming went crazy on Ohio State? I don't see that happening. I think that Ohio State's defense will be really good, especially their secondary next year. So, whatever. I'm not worried about that, but it is interesting. I mean, there's not really too many other name or other schools that have been connected with Kyle McCord in the portal. I heard like Miami, I heard like Texas A&M, but like nothing has actually came of those things so far. So I don't know, man. Like Nebraska may end up being the landing spot for both of those guys. It seems like Julian probably wants to follow Kyle. We don't. I mean, I shouldn't say that. At least that's what it looks like in terms of them both visiting the same school. I don't even know if they're doing it together or what, but I don't know, man. That there's some interesting stuff going on with the portal. Ohio State's supposedly in on a couple defensive linemen, a couple offensive linemen that they're kind of targeting or looking at. Uh, but there's been no names or like I don't think really people who have like officially announced that they're coming for a visit. So I don't know. I think they need to get active on that. Ryan Day may be like focusing on the Cotton Bowl and focusing on his current roster, and figuring out what's going on there before he goes into the portal. But you look at last year, they brought guys in from the portal that had a big impact on the team. I mean, like I talked about this on one of my other shows, but like Davis Igbinosun was probably the biggest portal get. I mean, he's probably like top 5, top 10 in the whole country last year, because of how much better that cornerback room got overall because of him being there. And then you look at the effects of a guy like Jordan Hancock, who was, if they don't get Davis Igbinosun, he's probably the starting corner opposite Denzel Burke. And who knows who's in the slot? Maybe Cam Martinez or something like that. But um, having Davis and Igbinosun come in, that also allowed Jordan Hancock to move into that slot role, and he excelled at that. Man, he looked like an NFL player. So I don't know. I think they need to be aggressive. They need to bring in some guys. If it shakes up some people or makes them leave, like it is what it is. Your people who are your best players are not going to leave because you bring in someone else. Because your best players got to have the mentality of, like it doesn't matter who you bring in here. I'm going to win this job. And I mean, I don't know, man. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't think Ohio State's going to end up bringing in a transfer portal quarterback, unless it's in like the spring. So maybe I mean potentially they could. I mean even then you bring a guy in the spring. Is that person going to be starting? I guess maybe, but I think they're going to kind of let it roll with Lincoln and Devin Brown right now, and then you got Aaron Nolan coming in too. I think in like January. So I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see how all that transfer portal and recruiting stuff works out. Um, I'm not too like in depth with knowledge on those situations, so I'd like to talk about it a little bit on my show here, but at the same time, um, I don't go, like I said, too much into it because that's just not one of the things that I follow the most. So here I'm gonna send my uh, stream out to the group here. Sorry, I forgot to do this prior. All right. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, I want to talk about what my projected roster for Ohio State. I have offense and defense. The one position group or like two that I'm not doing is defensive line because honestly, I have no idea. I don't know if all four of the starting defensive linemen from last year are going to leave. I don't know if half of them are, or maybe none of them are. I'm not sure. I would imagine the answer is probably not none, because you look at the guys from that 2021 class, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Tyleik Williams, and Mike Hall. I would imagine at least 1 to 2 of them are going to go. If I had to guess, I would probably say Tyleik and JT Tuimoloau would go pro. Maybe Mike Hall and Jack Sawyer come back. I don't know, but anyway, I'm not gonna project the starters for that unit just because I have no idea who's even going to be there. So let's start from the top. So looking at quarterback, I've kind of let it be known this entire time that Devin Brown was a guy who I think could be a superstar at Ohio State. You heard good things about him from like fall camp. When he got in the game, I liked what I saw. A lot of people looked at what they saw from Devin and were like, oh, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. I personally liked what I saw from him. The main issues that he had was overthrowing the ball. And if you want to look back at 2021, CJ Stroud, he was a lot better passer than Devin Brown. So I'm not saying comparing him to CJ Stroud in that right, but if you remember, CJ Stroud's main issue with his accuracy was overthrowing the ball. And I think that's the same for Devin. And plus, he's a little more athletic and a willing runner. So I want to see Devin start the game. And hopefully at some point, maybe we'll get to see Lincoln Kienholz out there too. But if we don't, I honestly don't. Like, if Ryan Day is using it as a quarterback battle or just trying to get those guys reps, okay, that's fine. I'm cool with Lincoln going out there. If it's a close game, which I expect it to be, then I think that whoever you determine is the best quarterback through bowl prep is the one that you roll with throughout the game. I don't know. We'll see. Unless it's super close, maybe they're both just really good players. But I don't think that the answer for Ohio State's quarterback situation is someone that's not on roster right now. I think that it's Devin Brown or it's Lincoln Kienholz. And I mean, I don't know. I'm okay with it being either one. You know, I just think that these guys are talented. I think that maybe they didn't play last year because they were just experienced. Ryan Day went with the guy who was more experienced with the offense. And, you know, there was other stuff that went into that also, but I'm sure you guys have heard about all the whatever. Anyway, we'll move on from that. But like I said, Devin Brown was my starting quarterback for the Cotton Bowl. And then running back, I actually think that TreVeyon Henderson's going to play. I think that he's probably going to come back. And I think that he's going to end up playing. So I think that you're going to get a TreVeyon Henderson and Dallin Hayden 1-2 punch. And I think that it's going to be a problem. It is going to be a problem. I can see Ohio State kind of really controlling this with their run game, especially having that quarterback run in there, or quarterback run threat in there with Devin Brown. With Trey and Dallin, assuming that both of them play, I think that that's going to be a problem, and that's a glimpse into what Ohio State's 2024 running game should look like. In terms of the O-line, I think that you'll get pretty much everybody playing. You know, so you look at Simmons, Jackson, Hensman, Jones, and then Fryer. I don't think that they're going to play in that order, though. I think that possibly one of them may not play, or Ohio State may just make some changes and say, look, we're using this time to get our guys ready. But I think this may be a little conspiracy because nothing has actually said that this was going to happen. But I could see maybe Fryer bumping inside the guard, and then maybe like Luke Montgomery getting some playing time, or I think the other guy's name is Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think. He looked pretty good in the spring, and hopefully he's been developing and just getting better, getting more ready physically. Same with Luke Montgomery. I think that you'll see some movement on the offensive line, but I don't really know how to pinpoint it because I don't think that anybody on the O line is going to opt out, and I don't think that anybody's going to like get benched. But I think that maybe they'll mix in some guys just to get some reps at that position, at those positions. Tight end, I think Cade Stover's probably going to play. He's that type of guy, like that kind of uh, just farmer or whatever. I think he'll end up playing. I think we need to see Jelani Thurman though, because he uh, didn't get a lot of playing time this year as a true freshman, obviously. But it's looking at the kid, he looks physically ready. Whenever he did play, he was out there looking like one of the most dominant players on the field. So hopefully we'll get some Jelani Thurman mixed in if Cade does play. If Cade doesn't play, I think you need to get Jelani out there a lot. Let him play like a whole game. Obviously, with the mixing of G. Scott Jr. So, wide receiver. So this is the one where I'm gonna kind of go out on a limb here. I think that Emeka Egbuka is coming back next year. And the reason I think the reason why Emeka Egbuka moved into the slot was because of the wide receivers that Ohio State had around him. And you have Marvin Harrison Jr. and then there was Julian Fleming, who they felt like had to play for whatever reason. So I think Emeka kind of got pushed into the slot so that could be the three receivers. If you look at Emeka's skill set from when he was a freshman, though, I don't think that Emeka is a slot receiver. I think that Emeka is an outside receiver, and he didn't get the chance to show that at Ohio State. But I think that he'll come back next year and he will move outside because Ohio State does have Brandon Ennis, who is like your prototypical slot receiver. So I think that what the wide receivers are going to look like is I think you're going to have Carnell Tate at the X, Ennis at the slot, and then Emeka at the Z. And that'll be what the receivers look like for the Cotton Bowl this year for Ohio State. Obviously, there's going to be some mix-in of Xavier Johnson, maybe Jaden Ballard, maybe Noah Brown. Is it no, not Noah Brown? Noah Rogers. Sorry, Noah Rogers, Bryson Rogers. Maybe those guys will get on the field. Maybe Kojo Antwi. I don't really know kind of where he's progressing, but he's from the 22 class, and none of those guys have played in terms of wide receivers. But if him and Keon Graves are sticking around, I feel like they're sticking around for a reason because they're hoping to eventually play at Ohio State. So I don't know. We'll see how that works out. But that's my three. I think Emeka, Ennis, and Tate will get most of the shake, and I think Emeka will move outside. I don't think he'll be a slot receiver in this game. And honestly, I think that he'll thrive at that because to me, Emeka is never really he's never really been a slot body. I don't know. I mean, he has like that ability to be like an H-back, which, okay, that's fine. You can do some of that stuff with him. But at the same time, I just don't really see him as a slot receiver. I don't think that he's that possession kind of. I don't even want to say like how JSN was because JSN I feel like was just really good at every aspect of being a receiver. And Emeka has honestly a little bit of work to do. I think this year wasn't his best year. He kind of had some injuries. Even when he was out there, there was making some mistakes and stuff like that. So hopefully he'll come back, and Ennis, Tate, and Emeka will be a hell of a duo. And then going into next year, you have Jeremiah Smith coming in and Mylan Graham and Jeremiah McClellan. I mean, that wide receiver room is going to be crazy. So, and it has been. That's just kind of what Brian Hartline's got, or Brian Hartline, excuse me, has got. He's got him a room full of alphas, and he just keeps churning them and keeps bringing them in over and over again. So, I don't know. That's it for the offense. I'm going to move on to the defense. I wanted to talk about cornerbacks. So I think that Denzel Burke might be the only opt-out from this unit. Obviously, Iggy has to come back. Davison Igbinosun, he was only a sophomore, so I think he comes back. He'll start in this game. I think Jermaine Matthews gets to start on the outside. That kid is just a star, man. He's a star in the making. And honestly, I could see him having a huge impact on this game, especially going against guys like Luther Burden, I think is the guy's name for Missouri. That's one of the best wide receivers in the country. And he tweeted out like he was excited about this game when the game was first announced. So I don't know. Jermaine Matthews, big game from him. I think Jordan Hancock will play. I think he'll play the slot role that he has been playing. And I mean, I don't know if he's going to come back or not. I think he'll play either way, but I could easily see Jordan Hancock being like, hey, this was the year I needed. It's time for me to head off to the NFL. especially because that's a guy who had a major injury at one point in his college career. And that's just, whenever that happens, obviously that maybe skews your mentality a little bit about staying in college, because if something like that happens again, then your NFL stock is going to plummet. He's not a guy who is um, like an automatic first round pick. Like if something happened to Marv, he's going to be a first round pick regardless. So, all right, moving on to the safety position. I think that Josh Proctor and Sonny Styles probably both play. Sonny has to, or he doesn't have to, but he should be coming back next year because he was only a sophomore. But Josh Proctor, I mean, I don't think that he's a high enough draft pick to want to sit out of a game like this. I think that he'll play, and I do think that we'll see a lot of Malik Hartford mixed in there, true freshman who played a lot this year, but honestly not enough. Got one snap in the Michigan game, and we all know that was the touchdown pass that he kind of turned around as the ball was coming right to him. I do think that they're high on him, though, and I can see why, his upside. So hopefully he'll get a lot of reps in this game. And then moving on to the linebacker position, this one I'm kind of torn on because Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers, neither one of them are good enough where they're going to be drafted high, and that doesn't really. I mean, I don't think that they would sit out of this game. I think they would both play, but I think at the same time, if you're Ohio State, you have to be using this time to develop your younger linebackers that are going to be starting next year. You look at guys like Gabe Powers, you look at guys like C.J. Hicks, and then even Cody Simon. Like, I know he got a lot of playing time this year, but Cody Simon's probably going to be that, like, I mean, if he comes back, he's probably going to be that middle linebacker that Tommy Eichenberg was, and he'll be the guy who's kind of like the coach of the defense. So I mean, I don't know. I think you just have to see Gabe Powers and C.J. Hicks play some in this game, regardless of if you're rotating, whatever it is. Those guys have to be ready, and they're the future of this team, in terms of the linebacker position. So hopefully they'll get them out there. They'll get them as many reps as possible. Excuse me. Yeah, so that was it for the linebackers. I do think Tommy will still play, though. Like I said, I think that there's going to be a lot more people playing than we originally expected when the game was announced. Because I would imagine that, or at least I did, when the game was announced, I was like, okay, we're about to see all the young players and everybody's going to opt out. Then now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, this is a football team. These guys care about each other. They lost. They had a terrible loss together to Michigan. They're probably going to want to finish it out on the right note. And there's really no reason for a lot of these guys to sit out. If you're not going to be a first or a second round pick, there's what reason are you sitting out of the draft of the bowl game? Because ultimately, all you can do is go out there and ball out and help yourself out. You're not going to go out in the bowl game and play so bad that your draft stock plummets. It's just not going to happen. Especially if you're a guy who's projected to be a top 3 round pick. There's no way you're going to play bad enough in the game for your draft stock to plummet. But you could help it if you go out there and ball out. So I think we'll see a lot of guys come play that a lot of people wouldn't have expected. And I think Ohio State will go out and take care of business in this game, especially if the quarterback position is as good as I think that it can be at Ohio State with the guys on roster. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up here, though. As always, guys, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Come back for more content, typically daily, sometimes every other day, about 10 a.m. During the week, I like to go live and just kind of talk about what's going on with this team. But thanks for watching. Peace out. You guys have a great day.